90% of us are anxious and stressed in some way.
Do you have a book inside you that really needs to come out, but you're really struggling with overwhelm? Well, you're not alone, because research shows that over 77% of execs are struggling with overwhelm. So when it comes down to the crunch, even though they've got a desire to write, they've got big goals ahead of them, they want to leave a legacy, it is really difficult to get going because they're packing something on top of something else. So I felt this, and many of my clients have also felt this way. And that's why I have invited Tim to come and chat to us. Now, Tim is a transformational coach and he is a breathwork guide. Now, if that sounds a little bit airy-fairy to you, that's okay. The fact is that what he has to teach really works. And one of the techniques that he has taught me, which I've used a lot inside for my sleeping patterns and for writing, is the box breath technique. And he's going to be sharing that with us today. Now, Tim has been a coach for over 16 years, and he's not here to motivate us. He's here to transform our thinking so that we can take our goals, write those books, ignite our creativity, and leave a legacy. So, Tim, thank you so much for being our guest. Tell us something quirky about yourself, something that's not in your bio, because we really love to hear people's stories.
Wow, Kim, absolutely amazing. What a pleasure to be here, and lovely to meet everybody and all your amazing authors, your wannabe authors, the people who are writing and just wanting to move forward. Wonderful to actually be here. Something quirky about me. Wow, quirky, I don't know. But we did something, we being the wife and I, did something unusual in January 2021, where we made a call to sell our family home, give a lot of things away to friends and family, put a few things of treasured possessions in storage, and we hit the road in a converted van and we traveled South Africa for a year and a half.
Wow.
And that was the most creative I've ever been in my life, because I was able to think so freely. And that, well, I suppose you could call it quirky, because not many people do that, but that's what we did. Absolutely gorgeous time of our life. Beautiful memories.
Wow. I love that story. I know you've been threatening to write a book for quite some time, but I have to say that particular story is really worth reading, and I definitely want to hear that. But it reminds me of that Pina Colada song where you have this couple that have been involved in a relationship for a very long time, and there's all of these quirky things about each other that they just don't know. So we want to hear more about that quirky story, and I know that it's going to come out in a book. But here is the thing. When it comes to creativity, so many of us are incredibly stressed. And I know that you do transformational breathwork, but here is a challenge that some of my clients have. So just this week, a client of mine told me that he is involved in a lawsuit. It's not of his choosing. He's representing his company in it, but it's massively stressful and it's actually consuming a massive amount of his time. So when he wants to write, and he's actually an incredibly good writer, very wise, and he produces regular newsletters, but when he wants to write, he's so overwhelmed by all of the stuff that's happening around him that he really just struggles to sit still and get his creative juices going. So you've got long-term workshops that you work with. You want to make changes in people that help them to deal with stress over a long-term period. But what about those of us who are struggling with something right now and we need to have an immediate intervention? What kind of advice can you offer to us now?
There's a number of things that you can do instantly. When I first went into this, I was looking at the deeper, bigger perspective, but I've realized, because we're all living in this stressed state, this 90% of us are anxious and stressed in some way, especially over the last 3 years. It's gotten worse. I'm not surprised your client was just, when they're sitting down and they eventually get there, they just can't get their mind focused. So as I'm getting more and understanding more about my clients' needs, I came up with, well, I didn't come up with them, I just packaged them, what I call breath hacks. So these are those quick things that you can do literally in 60 seconds while you're sitting there, be it that you're driving your car, or that you're sitting at your desk and you want to focus, or you're just about to go into a meeting, or you're just about to go into the court case, and now you're dealing with all of this angst, that you can just sit and calm your mind, get a little bit more connection from mind to body in your heart to think a bit clearer. And one of my favorites, and it's not only mine, it's many people's favorites, is one called box breathing. This is a very simple tool, and I'd love to share it with us and actually do it while we're on the call for everybody to follow through, so that you can see how literally in 60 seconds, you're able to change your entire mental and physical and nervous system state just by the effective control of your breathing.
I love that. I just want to tell the audience that I've actually experienced this technique that Tim is going to be demonstrating for us now. Now, I tend to suffer from insomnia, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and there'll be that one thought that just plagues over and over and over in my mind, and I really struggle to go back to sleep. So although I write very well in the morning, if I haven't slept well the night before, then I really struggle to write. And I use this technique to calm my thoughts down so that I can go back to sleep, so I have sufficient sleep to be able to attack my creative projects the next day. But Tim, you've told me beforehand that this particular technique, firefighters use that. Is it correct?
That's right, they do. So you've got special forces, the army and firefighters use this because they're in such a high stressed environment for long periods of time, and our bodies aren't designed for that. And this is what often happens when we're working and living in stress states. We breathe from what's called our sympathetic nervous system, which is your chest, which causes more anxiety and more tension. And when we're there for long periods of time, it starts to impact our entire bodies. So this breathing technique, being that it's in through your nose, means that we're actually breathing in through our bellies, which then starts to sort of open up a little bit and breathe more for what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest, breathing in your belly, which is the ideal place for us to be, as opposed to stressed, which is fear, fight, and flight. If you think about it, when you're anxious and you're stressed or you're frustrated or you're angry, where do you breathe? You breathe in your chest here, or your belly.
And I tend to hunch my shoulders as well when I'm stressed. Everything like closes up. Yes.
Tension, and it all sort of, and then it starts to exacerbate right on top of each other. So that's where box breathing can just slow you down. And here's a key thing to understand as well. Many people, it's like a myth. Many people believe that the deeper and faster you breathe, the more oxygen you take. It's actually false. When you breathe fast and deep, you're taking in more air, but your body's not taking in more oxygen. Whereas slower breathing, Lao Tzu says, the man who has the perfect breather is the one who breathes without breathing. In other words, the perfect breather is somebody who you don't notice is even breathing. Slow and deep, just calm. That adds more oxygen, which is what you want up here, right? That's what's going to get you activated. So breathing fast, you get lightheaded because it's lack of oxygen. Slow down, breathe from your belly, opens the blood vessels, more oxygen. That's the trick. That's the key. So how do you, in that moment of anxiety, that stress, that trauma, that court case, the staff paying the tax man, and you look, how do you then say, okay, I need to get, that's the breathing hacks.
Super. So we are going to pause over here so that Tim can walk us through this breathing technique.
Box breathing is an effective way to bring your body and mind into a calm and relaxed state by activating the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as rest and digest. This makes it an effective breathing exercise for anxiety, calm you before a meeting or presentation, and just general ease in a busy day. So visualize or watch this box to follow the breathing. 1 minute is all you need. Inhale through your nose and hold. Hold for 4 seconds. And exhale through pursed lips through your mouth for 4 seconds. And hold for 4 seconds. Inhale through your nose for the count of 4. And hold for the count of 4. Exhale through pursed lips to the count of 4. And hold for the count of 4. Continue for as long as you need, or for 1 minute, the length of this video. That is box breathing, your ideal way to clear your mind, get some mental clarity, stress relief, and just a little bit of focus.
Okay, thank you so much, Tim. I have to say, I feel so calm now that I don't even know if I can continue with this interview. So here's the thing, that sometimes when you're tired, I mentioned that I was tired earlier on. When you're tired and you've got a deadline, what can you do to activate yourself? So sometimes your editor is on your case, you've got to meet that deadline and you've got to energize yourself. What can you do to get that rumor going inside you?
It's an amazing question. A lot of people relate the breathing techniques to stress management, which is a massive part of it. But it's not only about calming your mind and relaxing your sympathetic nervous system so that you can actually function clearer. Your breath controls everything in your body, your entire mind, your body state, and your nervous system. So which means that not only are you able to calm yourself, but you can also elevate yourself. You can increase your energy. And there's one which I love to do, which we will share with all your clients and your guests and everybody on the call, is what's called the 50-50 method. This is quite a fast one. We're not going to play with this now, but I am going to be sharing with you how you can do it. And what the 50-50 does is 50 very quick breaths in and out your mouth. So that absolutely gets your whole nervous system running and activated and moving. But then on your 50th breath, you take a deep breath, you let it out, and you hold your breath for 50 seconds.
Oh,
there's a couple of things. Yeah.
Would I even last 50 seconds? Well, I'll go as blue.
Well, you will be. You will, because you're going to really be sending a lot of energy through your body. Your energy is going to be flowing. You're going to be very awake. And what is magical about these things? Often, it's as much your mental focus in that moment with the counting as it is the breathing. You see, if you count, even on the box breathing, when you were doing 4 and you were doing 4 seconds, 4 seconds, when you're counting and you're breathing this way, your mind, what I call that monkey mind, that chatter, that incessant noise that we often all got going on, it's not able to actually operate. And you'll find that calms and quietens. It's the concentration of your breathing, that fast one, the slow one, the counting, and the actual breathing itself. It's that combination that gives it the real magic and the real power, because this is what we want to access. We want to be in a good state to be able to access our subconscious mind, that's where all the juice, all the good stuff sits, is inside there. It's not that conscious bit. So that's the one that I do recommend. And there's many different ones which are available for being in different states. Stress states where you're not able to sleep is another one. Brilliant, because now you know that you need to, as you say, you're right in the morning. So there's a beautiful one called 4-7-8, which is excellent for those who are struggling to quieten that mind, to go to sleep and be more peaceful, so that when you wake, you've had this deep sleep. But Kim, can I share one very simple way that people can instantly change how their entire body works in a stressful situation with you? Just one very quick thing. And you're going to want to write this one down.
Yes.
shut your mouth. Now, I'm not being rude. I'm not being rude. I promise. I've got your best interests at heart here. I truly have. See, when you're stressed, do you breathe through your nose or your mouth? High stressed, high strung, anxious. You see somebody having a panic attack, nervous.
Yes, yes. When they're having a panic attack, they definitely breathe through the mouth. I know someone who has panic attacks, and she definitely breathes through the mouth when she's feeling that way.
So you breathe through your mouth, and when you breathe through your mouth, are you more inclined to breathe through your chest or your belly?
Yeah, in the chest. I'd say definitely the chest.
So this is the activation of that fear, fight, flight, which creates the stress, reduces oxygen flow to your brain and your body. As soon as you shut your mouth, you breathe through your belly. It's slower, longer. So tip 1, shut your mouth. Even before you begin anything else.
Well, that is very practical. Not something that I would have thought about beforehand, but very practical. Thank you, Tim. So next up, you're going to be chatting a little bit to us about some long-term strategies. So we don't have to constantly battle this fight or flight mode. We can leave that for the books. But in our life, while we're writing the books, we want to have some long-term strategies to manage our stress. Then we have a question from our audience. Is this a technique that is used by deep divers to focus and feed themselves more oxygen before they plunge into the depths?
That is actually quite a complex discussion point, because what the deep divers are doing is they've gotten their bodies used to the CO2 levels. So we often believe that we need to breathe more, breathe deeper, breathe bigger to get more oxygen. That's actually, again, it's one of these fallacies. It's your resilience or your tolerance to CO2, carbon dioxide, that is essential. So that's where the deep divers and even your sports people who need to be able to have their bodies to be able to deal with not absorbing more oxygen. That's not possible. Your blood is at 90-95% oxygenated all the time, unless you're a deep diver. It's your tolerance to CO2 that you build up through breathing practices and holding your breath. That's one of the key ones, but holding your breath on the out breath builds up that tolerance for what's called breath hunger. So if you hold your breath and you think, okay, I can't hold it anymore, I need to breathe in, I'm running out of oxygen, you're actually not. It's the buildup of CO2 that you need to get rid of.
Okay, interesting.
So that's where the divers focus. Rather different, because I hope your writers and your authors aren't sitting there holding their breath while they're writing. Because, well, rather a different situation.
So we have another question. Writers tend to live on coffee. We spend really long times sitting, and we want to be able to keep our minds active. And sometimes when you're stuck in a scene and you're actually quite tired, but you want to keep on going, you need something to raise your energy levels. And you've mentioned to me beforehand that you have an alternative for coffee. We're quite intrigued. Tell us about that.
Well, when you have coffee, you're looking for that activation, that awakening. But breathing, when you're breathing in a certain state, in a way, you can actually do this activation as well without the downer. Because it's all about controlling the breath, which allows you then to control the whole blood flow through your body and through your system. So just even something as simple as effectively breathing and being aware of what I call as a conscious connected breather. While you're sitting there in front of your laptop, your computer, and you're typing, being fully aware how you're breathing in that state. And if you find that you are going down, breath work like the 50-50 I mentioned can then elevate and lift you without you needing grab that extra cup of coffee all the time. But being just in that state of having your mouth shut, breathing in your nose, focusing on your belly, but it's a conscious thing. And this is where we lead into saying it's what you're doing today will help how you then react to these circumstances in the future. Because what you're looking at saying is, how do I create and improve on my breathing now to lessen my reaction to stress states in the future. That's the key thing.
So before Tim speaks to us about these long-term techniques, I'd like to let you know that Tim has actually got a couple of free downloads for us, and he has got a special coming up. So Tim, tell us a little bit more about that.
There's 3 breath hacks that I'm going to share with you that you're going to be able to then just download, have ready, practice those before you need them. In that stressful moment, you already want to be in the mindset, Tim said 4-4-4-4, box breathing, or 50-50, whichever it is, that stress state. So practice them before. And they're literally just 60 seconds, some of them 90 seconds, 60 to 90 second hacks. So you get access to that. In addition to that, we'll connect on some specials that I've got for you guys, which is what I want to lead into now, which was my core attraction to breathwork in the very beginning, something called transformational breathwork journeys. This is for those really committed to making the long-term change. How about chatting about that? What do you think, Kim?
I think that's an excellent idea. You know, besides writing, we've got a whole bunch of other projects that we're working on. And I know that when I'm very stressed, my family basically gets the brunt of it. So anything that can help myself and the audience to be able to have calmer lives so that we can improve the quality of our work life, improve the quality of our relationships and our family, you know, that's a winner in my book. So over to you, Tim. Tell us, what are the next steps that we have to take?
Breath hacks are great. They're things you do here and now to help you to be able to be in a better moment in the now. But that's sort of like having a Panado for that migraine. It maybe helps a little bit, but it doesn't get down to why you're reacting in that way in that moment. So let's dig down into that and clear that up. Now, what we're dealing with is years, decades for some of us, of stored anxiety, trauma, stresses, which is trapped as energy in our bodies. Your body doesn't trap and store memory, it stores energy. And this is what can also lead to blocks in our imagination and our creativity. Without realizing it, it's caused because of things that have happened in our past. So to move forward to having a better state on an ongoing basis and being able to just naturally handle stressful circumstances on a day-to-day basis, you need to go back and say, what is causing you to react in this state right in the beginning? But here's the key thing I love about transformational breathwork journeys. You say nothing, because your body, we give it an environment that it can release this trauma, the stresses, the things that you think which no longer serve you, bad habits. So what a transformational breathwork journey is, and this is where, when I first experienced this, was my profound moment, my awakening, my epiphany moment of realization. If I was to help my clients, my coaching clients, to really progress, we need to get rid of all of this stuff that's blocking us. And so in a transformational breathwork journey, it's a 45-minute deep breathing, but somatic breathing program, where it's a combination of music, deep breathing, and NLP, neuro-linguistic program, which helps to reprogram and delete old habits in the subconscious mind. Would I be right that if you think about it, 90% of our activities and our actions during the day have happened unconsciously. So the stuff, the good stuff that we want to get access to is stored in our subconscious minds. So if we can then put our conscious minds to sleep, that chatter, and get access to all of the good stuff, that's where it starts to flow. And I've had an artist a couple of months ago, a client of mine, he did a journey. And he was supporting his wife, but he was doing this. And afterwards, after the transformational journey, he said, wow, he had been contracted to draw a certain piece of a work of art, and he couldn't see the picture. He couldn't get it going. He had a clear vision, a clear visualization, because his body released something. He didn't know what it was, but he said he had this release of this, and in that moment, he saw this work of art, the completed thing. He said it was that epiphany moment, that realization that he now had this, it was unblocked because he cleared away the blocks and traumas and stresses so that it didn't apply to him now. And then he could actually go away and think a lot freer and clearer. So this is the longer term solution. Now, there's no get well quick fix, so to say. We can definitely do the patches and those little panados, but get involved and really clear it out. And it doesn't, a lot of people say, I don't have the time, right? Isn't that a key thing? Time is so restricted.
That's very true. We have that with authors as well. They always say there isn't enough time. I know that excuse, we've got it for everything that's actually quite important in our lives. But what I learned is that, recently my dad passed away and he ran out of time. And then we can never get back the time that we wanted to do certain kinds of things with him. So I really think that it is time that we stop using it as an excuse.
So here's the key thing, and I said this to a client last week. If I could show you through doing a transformational breathwork journey, say 1 hour, how 1 hour tonight, for allowing you to then fall beautifully asleep instead of reading your book and watching Netflix before you go to sleep, where your mind's not able to calm, will then save you 2 hours tomorrow, because your stress state is going to be so different. You're going to be able to operate so much quicker, more effectively. Spend 1 hour today to save 2 hours tomorrow, 2 hours the next day, and have these understandings and visions from realizations. Would that not benefit? Is that not an investment in your time? And she said, yes, it was.
Actually, you're so right. I've got a friend who recently experienced a car hijacking, and he does really high-level work, high-level thinking. And for days afterwards, all he did was lie on the couch. It was incredibly difficult for him to process the stress that he was going through, or the post-traumatic stress from this event. And stress affects your productivity. It affects your creativity. So these techniques that you've been teaching us are really incredibly helpful to learn. And on the point of time, it looks like we are running out of time. So, Tim, I have to thank you so much for joining us, for helping us with these strategies to just get to grips with our stress so we can release our creativity, we can write our books, and we can take care of those other high-level projects that we want to take care of. And so remember, everyone, please, if you like this video, if it can be helpful to someone that you know, pass it on, share it, subscribe, and then also let us know what you enjoyed about the video and what you would like to see more of in the future. And just as a quick notice to our viewers, my book is going to be releasing soon, The Escaping the Well of Silence. So if you want to know more about it, please reach out so that you can be put onto the waiting list to know when it's going to come out. Thank you so much, Tim.